Good evening, everybody, and welcome. We've got a great evening for you this evening. If you've not met Nick, he's been involved with the Queen's Market now for, I think, 7, 8 years.
Hey,
It's a terrific project, and it's one of those places. It's what you might call Morecambe's hidden gem because you quite literally, if you haven't been inside and had a look, you'll be utterly amazed at what there is there. So it's a great presentation for you this evening. I know you'll enjoy it. So can I ask you all please to mute your microphones and please, Nick, would you like to take over now?
thank you very much, David. So for those who don't know me, my name is Nick Smith. I grew up in this area. I'll give you a little backstory about how I came to own the Queen's Market in the first place. I struggled at school, only passing a GCSE art and design, and this is due to being dyslexic and dyscalculic. But I have this tenacity and drive to change systems and make things work for myself. And that sort of goes into what I'm trying to do in the future with Queen's Market. So I managed to change the system to allow me to do A-level art and get a degree in furniture and product design, which I got this degree. Unfortunately, because I don't really fit into the normal system of way people do things, I struggled to find a job. And I started selling architectural antiques because I've got a love of architecture and buildings, and I just wanted to save the bits that were there. And then I inherited some money about 20 years ago from my granny, and I bought a row of shops. Some of you'll know them on West Street, the end of Yorkshire Street in Morecambe. There's a little row of 7 with a canopy, and they were my first project, and I still own them today. And then from there, I started buying property, big 10-bedroom terraced houses in West End of Morecambe, restoring them back to 5-bedroom family homes in the way that I do, which is looking at the architectural detail, making them look like Lancaster houses and selling them on. And I did about 7 or 8 of those houses, mainly in Morecambe. And I was doing one on Heysham Road, and I just happened to come into town, knew that this building was for sale, happened to walk on the back street, which is the back of the building, which is on the photograph you can see on the screen. And I thought, is that the back of Crystal Tea's nightclub that's for sale? Looked up, it's a Queen's Market. Walked round the side and thought, there's a lantern roof underneath all that dereliction. You could see it from the ground floor. And I went to see my dad and said, shall I buy this building? It's guide price of 50,000. It's something special, but it was 2 days before the auction, so we couldn't go and view it internally. And my dad's a Yorkshireman, and I just expected him to say, don't be so stupid, carry on with what you're doing. And he said, no, let's go to the auction and see if we can get it. So we went to the auction. There was only 2 bidders, and I got it for the guide price of 50,000. And my intention was just to restore the building, because buildings are the thing I love. I saw this thing that was neglected and forgotten. The roof was gone. The pigeons were in. I'll play the video now because that sort of shows what it was like. So to start with, I just thought I'd put it back to a commercial unit. I'd put the flats back in the back, which would allow me to borrow money to do the rest of the building. But unfortunately, as you can see, the state of the flats at the back were really bad. I had the planners round. They said because the flats had all collapsed into each other, they didn't exist, so I'd have to reapply for planning permission. And at that same sort of time, I met one of the directors of New River Retail, who owned the Arndale Centre at the time. And he said, have you seen Altrincham Market? And I'd never been to a food hall before, so we went off to Altrincham. We saw this amazing market that was turning Altrincham around. I know Altrincham's got a very different demographic to Morecambe, but I came back from that and thought, Morecambe's not ready for it. The building's crying out for it. I can make a go of it. So I decided, forget the flats. We'll do a market. We'll do an event space. So I carried on, and after 5 years, I started to think, what can I do with this building? How can I use this building, this asset that I've got, to do good? And I started to think about my life and the struggles that I had, not being believed in, not fitting into the system, being told you're no good because you don't pass exams, and all those struggles. But I had support from my family. I had teachers that believed in me, so I managed to succeed. And I just thought there's people out there in the Morecambe Bay area who don't have that support that I did, but have the talent to be something great. So I made this video, and thinking that the university, Eden, Wayne Hemingway would come along, or the college would come along and say, we love the ethos, we'll rent it from you, and we'll make it into this exciting thing that I'm hoping it's going to be. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. And a local man came along and said, can I rent the building? I said, yeah, you go and find the money, rent the building from me. And he was going to do his community thing. But unfortunately, the cost of the building to do and all the work that was needed was a bit above him. Obviously, I'm stuck with the building because I own it. We'd set up a community company, which is Queen's Market CIC, with the intention of using the building for good. He left as a director, but I carried on because I've got this tenacity and drive that I believe that this building can regenerate the town, just the same as Altrincham Market has regenerated Altrincham. We can use this building to generate profit that, as a not-for-profit, we reinvest that money back into all the organizations that we need to make this successful. So this photograph is the existing outside when I found it, which is one of the reasons why I didn't think anything of the building. I knew it as a nightclub, but it didn't look anything. It didn't look anything special. But obviously the inside is the special bit. So I recreated the front using all reclaimed materials. The whole building's full of reclaimed materials because so I've gone off on a bit of a tangent, but the reclaimed materials are the important thing to me because they're the things that have the stories. So within the building, there's floor joists from Broadway Hotel. There's all the moldings on the outside of the building here all came from inside the building because they were hidden behind the squash court walls. Sorry, I haven't actually told you what the building was. It was built as a market hall in 1895, with the Albert Hall, which was built as a music hall. There's potentially Elgar, the composer, did his practice here before the Winter Gardens. It was very heavily involved with the Morecambe Music Festival. There was a hand-operated cinema in the early 1900s. And then the main body of the building turned into Palladium Cinema in 1916, and it ran all the way through to the late 70s. It was the first cinema, I believe, in the country to have the double love seats. It had the most state-of-the-art extraction system of any cinema in the world in 1933, because obviously 1,000-seater cinema, everybody was smoking back then. And then latterly, it was Crystal Tea's nightclub, which majority of the local people have very fond memories of, and Concord Squash Club. And then in the 1993, Oscar's bar appeared on the ground floor. So the buildings had this amazing history. I save buildings because the history needs to be told. So it's not just about fixing a building up so that it's a nice looking thing on the street. It's to keep those memories going. And this comes on to what I'm trying to do within the building. So one of the ideas is to build a living archive. So we take the stories of the building's past, Morecambe's past, and we get, hopefully, the young people of the area to collate these stories, retell these stories, and rebuild Morecambe future, so that the physical space of Morecambe has more stories to tell. And we put people on a pedestal. Because Morecambe was all built around entertainment. So I'm not sure which. So this is the ideas for inside the building. So as a community company, we intend to run lots of different businesses and projects within the space that exists. So one idea is the space on Victoria Street, which was that frontage you were just looking at, to become a brand Queen's Market, zero waste store, come ethical small enterprise hub to nurture entrepreneurs. So it's not just about selling dry produce, it's about how we can grow little businesses and give those businesses the chance to actually thrive by we become the marketer. So we as an organization can grow what they're doing. The more profit that we make, the more we can put into helping whatever those small businesses need to survive. It might be just advice on that we've gained from other businesses, but it's to grow the whole area. So it's not just about Queen's Market, it's about the whole of the Bay Area, how we can showcase what's going on all around. So that's only a small section of that frontage. Also hoping to have a demonstration kitchen where, again, we can showcase the produce that small businesses that might be selling over the internet, but they need to have a physical presence so that people can taste and smell, and that becomes part of our marketing. Again, we can live stream it, but we can also tap into like the food bank, so we can give those people that may be struggling but might be making amazing food. They might be a food writer, but they don't know about it because they're struggling. So we can use this demonstration kitchen again to help grow that talent that might be missed because of circumstance. Or it could be early onset Alzheimer's, where somebody's cooked all their lives. They've got a wealth of knowledge. We can write those recipes down, and they could, with a carer, they can showcase what they do as the memories that they have of cooking all their lives are still inside them. But if you see what I mean, sorry, I'll just move on. So demonstration kitchens. So then we've got the event space, which is the big hall room. One of the pictures showed. So it's just a big empty space. So that will be used for any sorts of events, from weddings, parties, corporate events. So all sorts of art exhibitions that we as an organisation will hopefully make money on, but we'll also then be able to put the more charitable events on. So we can blend the charitable events because we're able to generate the surplus from the food hall and from the other events we put on. I don't know whether any of you were aware of the Morecambe Bay International Film Festival that was held October just gone. I know the lady who's put that on, and she's desperate to be able to come into the space, and she's asking if it's going to be free in November. But at the moment, I can't give her a guarantee that we're going to be open by November. But that's another thing that Morecambe and the Morecambe Bay area is becoming something. It's the art, the creativity, the what Morecambe was in the past, which was entertainment. It was created for beauty surrounds, health abounds. It was the mill workers of the Lancashire towns who used to come to clear their lungs. And on the back of that, the entertainment came. And I think we can cotton on to that with the smog of today, which is technology. Make Morecambe into a place where people come to be entertained, to enjoy themselves again, and go back and feel revitalized to carry on sitting behind a computer screen, which I'm not very au fait with, but here I am sat behind a computer screen. So music events, I know lots of bands that want to perform in there, from rock bands all the way through to the Promenade Concert Orchestra. Howard of the Promenade Concert Orchestra is very keen because he's a Elgar aficionado, so he wants to put performances on. So it's not about taking away from the platform and the other places in the area. It's about saying, how can we build the whole area? How can we have something on at the platform and something on at Queen's Market that complement each other to bring more people into the area? So that brings me on to the food hall. So this one's Altrincham Market. The only bad things I've heard of Altrincham Market is, one, the price point, but obviously it's Greater Manchester. And two, the fact it's always too busy. But I don't think you can really complain about somewhere being too busy. But again, even with the food hall, I'm thinking that we can do our social good with it by taking concessions that already exist in the local area. So local businesses, Chowder Pete is one, for instance. They'd come in on a peppercorn rent, but we would take a percentage of their turnover. But they have to take an apprentice on. And with the part of the proviso is that we would help train that apprentice up, so that apprentice could take on possibly a derelict shop on Yorkshire Street or somewhere else in the town, so that we build the town with the people that exist within it, and give them hope for the future, that they can take control of their destiny, rather than going to work for somebody and just being a number. So that one's Mackie Mare. So we're going to have a similar sort of seating around the edge of the food hall in ours. And then there'll be a coffee bar. Again, training baristas up, giving people that opportunity to be individuals and actually create their own blends. And so it's not just about selling coffee, it's about becoming something. It's just another example of a coffee bar. And then obviously there'll be a bar to go with the food as well, but more along the artisan side, looking at local brewers and producers. And then on the ground floor, where the squash courts used to be, we're hoping for a science educational retail experience, because I think retail as a whole, especially Morecambe, is not going to survive. if you want retail, you go to the Trafford Centre. But if we can give something bespoke that is experience led, possibly with a monthly changing theme. So looking at, when the Kite Festival's on, it'd be a month run up to do with wind. So it could be art creativity to do with wind, all the way through to how a wind turbine works, or how aeroplanes work. So paper aeroplanes for toddlers, things to do that will bring people in, but also have an educational aspect. So looking at business sponsorship. So it could be BAE looking for those young entrepreneurs that are going to go and be an airplane designer that might be really good at 3D printing, but they don't know that they're an aeronautical designer because nobody's ever told them that that's possible. So it's very, very complicated what I'm trying to do. And I mean, no doubt it's really difficult, but so was taking a derelict building and solely restoring it totally on my own with a load of reclaimed materials and a budget of 150,000. So I'm not scared of hard work, and I know with the right people behind it, we can make something really special. And it can change. When the kids are at school, it becomes something slightly different. So a bit like the Science Museum, TechniQuest, but mixed with a bit of retail at the same time. So that's all the ground floor. Then we've got a few office spaces, a boardroom and some. So, but they're just office spaces. And then there's 2 squash courts that drop down underneath what was Crystal Teas, the nightclub. So these 2 really quite large spaces I want to create into an innovation cafe. So it's separate to the main body of the building, but it is still connected. So when the young people are not at school, the evenings, holidays, it becomes this innovation cafe where it's just a cafe where they can hang out. It's not connected. You don't join. It is just a cafe, but it's created by the young people. They're going to have governance within our board of directors, their own board, and they can lobby us for things that they want. So if they want a skate park, they can come to us with ideas, and we will go using our partners to the council and say, this is what the young people want in the town, and we're going to make it happen because we believe in them. And if we believe in the young people, hopefully the young people will believe in themselves. So at the moment, it's just an empty squash court. So the first project for these young people is to actually design the space and say, do you want pods on the walls? Do you want them to move up and down? Do we look at the engineering? Who can we go to do the welding? How can we get these young people accredited for what the work they put in? So if a young person does a week's worth of welding on building a pod, they're not going to get a certificate, but we can give them an accreditation that welder has said, yes, you've got that spark of talent. With the right help, you will be the best welder ever. And we can give that young person the accreditation, and they can go to that steel manufacturer and say, this professional has said, I can do it, believe in me, and I will give you what you need as an organization. So that could be anything from, it doesn't have to be welding, it could be computers, it could be 3D printing, it could be fashion design. So these are just ideas that I got from different pods. So it could be, 8 people sat in a pod discussing plastic pollution in the sea because they've seen it on telly and Greta's got their back up. So how can we put something on for them? So with the connections with the university that we'll have and Eden, we'll say, right, we're going to put a lecture on just for you so that we can inform you and you can make your informed decision on what the next best step is. So I think that's the most exciting bit of the project community-wise, because the young people are the future. And I don't think the young people are really grasping that what they need to do to make the future happen. It's if you want change, they need to put their voice out there, and TikTok and Instagram isn't going to give them that voice, because it doesn't get you the millions of followers you want. I've been trying, and I don't know how to do it, but so we get the young people the things that they need to succeed. So editing suites, 3D printers. Obviously, once some of these things will be funded, some of them will be things that we will get as the business grows. And then the other squash court turns into a lecture theatre, with the idea that we can put on seminars, we can get revenue from businesses for Eden doing seminars, university, but also the young people can use it for showcasing whatever they do. If they're looking at filmmaking or music events, and they can show it to their. I think that's got to the end of the slides there. Do you think we want to ask some questions? Have I waffled enough?
Yeah, well, Nick, is I'll stop the screen sharing now, so we can see everybody, and then we can. Oh, we can anyway. Get out of it. There we go. Now we can see everybody, and we'll put you on speaker mode there now. And yeah, if anybody has got any questions, can you? I'm sure there's lots of them. Would you like to raise your hand so I can see you, and then unmute yourself when I call your name? So, is there any questions at all? Okay, well, I can kick off with one, certainly. One point you were talking about was the Innovation Cafe. One of the things I'm aware of is that the Alston House in Whitecross. They changed that some years ago from what it was to this kind of hot desking basis for businesses. They're currently running at about, I think it's about 170% of capacity. The demand there is fantastic. So is that perhaps one of the ways that you see going forward with the with this kind of thing for the Innovation Cafe?
So is that office based? You mean for
it's for Whitecross is generally office spaces, but this area is basically an area where you can go in and you can plug your computer in and you pay so much an hour for your space. And you've got the access to the cafe. So if you've got a guest to come along, they can have a coffee or whatever. You can have a business meeting there. You can rent a room. And it literally in Whitecross, it's running, I say, about 170% of capacity at the moment. They're so busy. It's such a major success. It seemed a perfect thing to fit into there for you.
Yeah, that's one of the sort of ideas with when the young people are at school. We don't want the space to be empty. So if we can keep it so that it can be used for all sorts of different ideas. So it could be hot desking with the cafe, or it could be might even be for people who are homeschooling, or people who are working from home but need to have office space that, there could even be ad hoc childcare provision somehow looked at so that it's a multi-use space. Obviously, it's going to turn into whatever it turns into. But at the moment, I'd like to have it as the multi-use space that I'll have to have a look at the White Cross. I've never actually been to it, so.
Well, I'll introduce you. That's not a problem at all. That I think that would be interesting. The other thing is, can you explain a little bit more about the how the peppercorn rent works for the people who are taking stalls and stands in there, and the way the profit sharing? And are there any examples of that working elsewhere at all?
There are, but I haven't actually really fully looked into it because obviously the building isn't at a state to operate yet. So it's something that we have to look into so that obviously the concessions that come in know that they're not being they're not paying over the odds, and they're getting more of a benefit from what they're putting in. If that percentage is coming out of what they're taking, what we're taking, that's something that Simon and Nikki will look at. Being more professional than I am. They're my other directors of the community company, and Simon's at the university entrepreneurial business. So it's something that we need to get tightened up as we move forward, as we start approaching concessions. I know it does work in other places. I think this LL resort that they're talking about doing, I think they were talking about that way of operating at their new thing if they ever pull it off. And that's where I got the idea from. Because if you just take a rent, we're not going to be able to do that social good with uplifting the chefs and the potential giving these young people the opportunities that could help them go forward. If with the marketing, all the apprenticeship sort of side of Queen's Market Community Company.
Are there any other questions coming up at all? Anybody else got their hand up? Being very quiet on there. Yeah, well, on the comment, I see that Amy has put that Escape to Make might be a good partner for the youth space. Can you enlarge on that, Amy, at all?
Yeah, sure. Hi, thanks for the interesting presentation, Nick. That's fascinating. Yeah, I don't know whether you're familiar with Escape to Make. We had a similar presentation a couple of years ago now, I think. They're, I think, Lancaster-based. And so a lady whose name I can't remember, but she's got 1 million tons of drive and all sorts of, it's basically about youth outreach, developing constructive projects, and very much young person led. And when you were talking about what you wanted to do in that space, I thought, and also the creativity and the design and fabrication, I immediately thought of them. So it might be an interesting partner for you if you're not already.
I know Jenny Escape to Make quite well. It's quite a complicated one because her projects are 11 to 18-year-olds. My entire project is birth till death, so it's involving everybody, and I'm quite a long way off actually being able to pull it off. And I think Escape to Make would have to put quite a lot of energy into helping us get over that line. But I do see partnerships in the future because my intention was never to actually do anything. My intention was to use the building to generate the funds that we would then feed into those organizations to do the projects for us. So take the Innovation Cafe, we would feed into Escape to Make and say, can you run these projects for us? And there's also Stanley's Youth Club in the West End of Morecambe. So it's how so the projects might not all run within our building. It might run out of the building in Stanley's or in another building that Escape to Make's got, or there's Joe and Becky with Creative West End. So it's how we can feed into the organizations that already do the service that we will need. So that was also working with partnership with the college for the apprenticeship schemes, and but unfortunately none of them can help Queen's Market get over the line, because the capital we need to get the building actually viable is too far away for people to, as soon as the projects are running, everybody will want to be part of it, I think, but we just got to get to that stage first.
Yeah, I'm I'm a former I worked in the bank for a number of years, and kind of when you were talking, I was thinking this sounds very expensive. I wonder where the capital's coming from.
So far everything is self-financed. So I've worked solely alone for the last 8 years on the building. Nobody's worked on the building apart from me. I've invested all my money. I'm borrowing from my parents at the moment just to live, because I believe that this can make a massive difference, and I'm prepared to let the entire building on a 50-year lease with no upward rent reviews apart from inflation, so that it gives Queen's Market the best chance to really make a difference. And I'm not saying it's going to be instant. It might be 10, 20 years before Queen's Market actually makes a difference to the whole of the Bay Area. But my intention is we make a real difference, and give those young people that belief that they need. I think, just talking from experience, that I'm not believed in because I don't tick the boxes, and I fight against that. But if you haven't got that fight, what else do you do? And I keep meeting these people on the street, and there's kids out there. Some of them are totally broken and probably you're not going to fix, but some of them they just need that little bit of belief, and you can see that spark in them. So that's what drives me, because I could just sell out and let it to a big corporate, and it could become something really nice and shiny, but it wouldn't benefit the whole of the area. It'd benefit me, and it'd benefit whoever takes it on. But yeah, but as for Escape to Make, they're on my radar.
Right. Yeah.
Thank you.
I think Howard's got his hand up, David.
Yeah, Howard's got his hand up, but he's got a question. If you can come in, Howard. I suspect we might be going on to our community wealth building topic, of which this is very, very relevant, Howard.
Hi, that was really, really inspiring. Yes, as somebody said, Creative West End and perhaps Love Morecambe might be things to help you get going. People you could bring in, but obviously you would have to finance it in some way. I was wondering if you were thinking of doing it all in one big go, or whether you could open it up incrementally. There are other examples, like for example in Liverpool there's Baltic Creative, and you might want to get in touch with them because they've done something like that.
So the problem I'm in the catch-22, because I own the building and the community company doesn't exist in the building. So the community company just exists in the ether. The community company wants to do these amazing things. And my other two directors and the other partners that are hopefully in the sidelines all believe that it's the right thing to do, but I can't release the building to the community company until I know that it's going to exist. So it needs to have enough money in the bank to pay the business rates, the insurance, the rent, the skeleton staff. And at that point, we can then start putting on one of, we could get the event space, possibly get the fire system into there so that it can be used. But at the moment, I can't release any of the building because I'm personally responsible for all the bits that aren't. So that the community company has to be responsible for the entire building. Because obviously if business rates came on, the community company is only paying for half of it, I'm still responsible for the rest, and I haven't got a penny to my name. So it all folds. And that's the last thing I want to happen is to shut it down before it even starts. But I'm racking my brains how we can do it, and even allowing the community company to exist in the building without rent. There's still all those other bills that the money isn't there for. But we are going for. There's a government grant that we're hoping to put in for. But we're also looking for a social investment loan with the Architectural Heritage Fund. But they're wanting to know that the business model is going to give them their money back. So it's just how long I can last financially and how long this loan's going to take.
So can I just add something to that? Have you any contact with Winter Gardens? And they seem to be aces at funding.
I know Vanessa reasonably well, who's the chair or trust. Yeah, she's a powering force at getting funds, and I quite like she's straight talking. And she told me basically she's only interested in the Winter Gardens, and I should possibly let the building commercially and give up on the dream because it's too complicated. But I just feel that if I gave up and got twice as much rent, I don't know whether I could walk the streets of Morecambe again, because the people who really support me are the people who have nothing. There's one man that gives me £1 every time he sees me just because he believes I'm doing something for the town, and he might have money, but he doesn't look like he has. And it's those people that really understand what needs to happen to Morecambe to make it great again, but they don't have a say. They don't have their voice, unfortunately.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Nick, I don't see any more hands up at the moment. Can I ask you one question? Really, what is the message that you'd like to pass to the members of Lancaster Civic Vision tonight? How can they help you? How can we help you?
I think support in the respect of getting the message out there that this guy that, I might be a bit bonkers, but I really know what I'm doing. I wouldn't have taken on this totally derelict building that was going to be demolished if I didn't know I was going to finish it. It's taken a bit longer than expected, but this project, if people believe in me and we get this up and running as a community, then I will make sure that the community get the benefit from this building. And just getting the message to the people that do have the power, that can press the right buttons. If we do manage to get through to the next stage of this this government, it's a community asset loan. Obviously, if people are saying that they want this to happen, then whoever's in charge of this government grant, are going to take more from the people than me saying it's a good idea. Spreading the word, and at the moment, the only revenue that the community company's got is from the pound names on the ceiling. So I came up with a crowdfunding idea, which is just through our Facebook and website. Worked out you can get 1 million names written on the ground floor ceiling, £1 a name. Every name's written on a dandelion, hand-painted dandelion petal, and it's seed funding. It's all about growing dandelions or growing people, and we'll send them off on their journey, and they grow their own enterprise in the future, but they always remember it was Morecambe that made them. I think that's the only thing I've got at the moment.
All right, Nick, that's, you know, I've got to say, I know you've given me a tour of the building, and I was absolutely knocked out. And I don't think anybody could understand, you know, by photos, the impressive, how impressive the building is and how fantastic the potential is in there. Is there any possibility that perhaps we could arrange a day for or a date for members of Lancaster Civic Vision to visit and to have a tour, so they can actually see the extent of what the potential is and what the possibility is?
Every possibility for that, but obviously you know about the access problems that, you know, the lift can't be used and things, but
yeah,
as long as that's put out there, and you know, if anybody does have access problems, I can show people through the back door, but you wouldn't be able to get upstairs. I can do private showings, and we can do an event if that's possible.
Yeah. Well, perhaps if we talk a bit later on that, and then if we can come up with a date, I can circulate the members with that, and then we can perhaps you know, formalise something and that's going to be suitable. In the meantime, Roger's got his hand up. I know he's been waiting to. He's got a question there for you.
Had you thought of opening the building for Heritage Days in September?
We did. It was in combination with Morecambe Heritage in the Arndale. Unfortunately, it wasn't really advertised, and we got one person.
Oh.
I did manage to get some people in off the street, because I thought, well, I'm open anyway. But it was linked to a tour, a walk from the Arndale to my building. It was badly advertised. And I have had a few open days where you just get into the main hall. Obviously I can't show people all the way around unless it's a private tour. And when I do have the open days, like the Vintage Festival weekend, generally have an open weekend that weekend, and there's hundreds come through the door, and they donate lots. And it's mainly the people from out of town that donate for the project because they can see the potential, or they have memories of Morecambe past and believe that Morecambe needs to revive itself. And I think that's the most important thing, that on the back of, if Eden comes, Morecambe needs to be the thing. Eden will bring the people, but those people need to go, wow, Morecambe has so much to offer. We need to come back next weekend. And I believe that's the only way that Morecambe will survive. It won't survive with Eden on its own, because Eden's a 5-10 year experience. You only come every 5 or 10 years. Morecambe needs to have a lot more going on. It needs to have these events, and the Vintage Festival brings tens of thousands of people in. So why can't we bring thousands of people in every weekend by putting something on every weekend? Morecambe's a playground, really. That it's music, it's entertainment, it's art, it's culture, it's heritage. Sorry.
Thank you.
Okay, Nick, that's been fascinating. Thank you ever so much. You're getting reaction now to the offer of a tour, and I think you and I need to get our heads together and try and organise something on that, and then circulate it round to everybody if we can fix a date. So thanks ever so much. It's been a fascinating presentation. I think I agree with you. It's a fantastic asset for for Morecambe. I can clearly see that people should gravitate from Eden and into Queen's Market, and it could be a main attraction here. So we need to make sure it happens. But thanks ever so much for that. It's been brilliant, and thank you everybody for attending. Is Pam there? Pam, did you want to mention to us about the next meeting that we've got?
Yeah, certainly. Just bear with me. I'll just get my speaker program up. So the next meeting's on the 14th of Feb. It's going to be on Zoom again, and it's Professor Julian Gillan from Lancaster Uni, who's going to give a presentation on Edwardian postcards of Morecambe and the social history we can extract from that. So that should be really interesting as well. Look forward to seeing quite a few people log on for that one as well.
Brilliant. Okay then, Pam, that's superb. Nick, thanks ever so much. And thank you everybody for coming. And we'll see you at the next one. Good night now.